Now, before I start anything I got to say, no matter what you hear me say, no matter what piece of information I lay out in front of you, please tag that with "cause of God." I've accomplished so much, but it's cause of God, though. My life is covered with grace and favor. You know, Bishop Jakes told me one time, when you got favor on your life, no matter what you're thrown into, you're going to always rise to the top. All of this that I have is really because of the grace of God. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you could get a couple of things from me, if you could gather this piece of information. Now, I want you to get this now. Imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attractions. Your real life, the one God really got for you, is in your imagination. It is not in your current situation or your current paycheck. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. All that means is, in the beginning, you just hope something pop off. I was hoping I would get on TV. When I wrote it on the paper, it wasn't factual. It was just hoping. You just got to start with the hope. Then what happened is, through grace and favor, he give you a couple of them things you hope for, and then you're supposed to start believing then. Your imagination is actually God showing you a preview of a coming attraction that he has for you. The moment you don't believe in your imagination, you negate what he got for you. God don't give you what you want. He give you what you believe.
Believe you can get what you want like a child. Make plans like an adult and believe in them like a child. Just try it.
Your problem is you keep telling your imagination to the wrong people. How many times, man, have you had a tremendous idea and you went and told it to your loved ones and your so-called friends, and they shot it down? You let them talk you out of what God got for you. Your real life is in your imagination. I'm just a real dude. I don't even have the education you all have. I flunked out of school. What I'm sharing with you is stuff that everybody can apply today. See, if you think you're too old to make it, let me give you a prime example. Colonel Sanders has been frying chicken his whole life. Colonel Sanders didn't get a franchise till he was in his 60s. As long as God waking you up in the morning, that's the sign that he ain't through with you.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what you desire. I don't know what you've been envisioning in your spirit. That if you believe God, all things are possible unto you. A lot of people, their problem is they don't want nothing. Have decided that your life is over and that if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. But you don't want anything. When you want something, you got to go for yourself, even if the person next to you does not.
Man, you know what I'm asking God for right now? And I'm 60. Ain't nothing wrong with wanting something. God got a big life for you. The smallest scripture I ever read changed my life. You have not because you ask not. Do you know the difference that could make in your life?
Asking starts a unique process. I don't even know how it works. All I know is it works.
He says, when you pray, you want to pray for what you desire.
When the last time you really asked him for something? Or do you keep making requests that's inside the confines of your paycheck? Didn't I just tell you God ain't in your paycheck? Didn't I just tell you he ain't in your job title?
Don't ask God to help you function better in your dysfunction. Ask him for your dreams. Ask for things that even seem impossible. That's not just being hopeful, just being positive. That's your faith being released. Take the limits off of God.
I do not live my life in the confines of what anybody says to me. So now, if you have not because you ask not, do you understand? If you up your ask, he has to up his give. You can start this today and change your whole game because you're going to need grace and favor anyway. But you gotta ask for something. Quit asking God for little bitty stuff. Lord, help me make my rent. You up your ask, he up his give. This ain't a magic trick, man. I have asked God for some tremendous stuff. Everything he hasn't given to me is on the way. I have no doubt about it.
Believe you receive it. I got it right now. I receive it in my spirit. I'm walking in it. I'm laying out plans. I'm picking out stuff, getting ready. I received it in my spirit, and I'm going to have it in my life. Believe this will change your life. Somebody just shout, I believe. Believe you received it, and you should have it. If you have to force yourself to believe it, then maybe you should realize that just because you desire it doesn't mean you should have it. Think of the things that you forced your way into, and then you had to cry your way out of it. You got what you wanted, but you didn't want what you got. He is saying you receive it in your spirit before you receive it in your life.
What I found is God's plan has always been better than my plan. One day, when you see what God was up to, you'll thank him for not answering those prayers. If it's supposed to be yours, you can rest assured nobody else will get it.
You cannot have prosperity in the natural until you receive it in your spirit. The reason some of you are broke is that you have a broke spirit. It comes in your spirit before it comes in your life.
You gotta have a tremendous work ethic to be successful in here. It's gonna be a lot of trying times, so you have to have a tremendous work ethic. Faith without works is dead.
Lord, I thank you for passion. I thank you, Lord, that I never went through anything that got so bad that it took my fight away. I cried. I didn't quit.
Don't seek the blessing, seek God. Keep him first place, and the blessing will seek you.
Are there any God seekers left? I see the money seekers, but are there any God seekers left and say, all I want is you?
I feel like there's someone in this room that if God gave you all of the steps right now, that you would feel more in control than you actually are. When you go anyway, it is a sign to God that I don't have to have all of the answers. I just want to be where you tell me I am supposed to be. God, I don't know how you're going to do it in my marriage. I don't know how you're going to do it in my family, but I am going to go anyway. And when I go, you meet me where you told me you were going to meet me. When you go, God meets you. Someone says, Pastor, I want to believe that I'm the woman for the job. But if I'm honest, I don't feel qualified. I'm in position, but I don't feel qualified for the position I'm in. And the position is trying to make me believe that I don't have what it takes to make it to the other side. And for a moment, I want to glean some wisdom from Mary that I hope can help you in the position that God has placed you in. Because if we remember, God doesn't make mistakes. And if he called you into that position, no matter how overwhelming the position is, it's because he believes that you are the woman for the job. And so our task then becomes to ask God, what is it that you know about me that would have you place me in this position? Because if you place me in this position, then you know something about me that I don't know yet. And sometimes our greatest prayer should be, God, would you open up my eyes so that I can see who I am supposed to be in your kingdom, that I would not compare myself to everything that came before me or the things coming up behind me, but that I would trust that you place me in this position because no one else could do it like me but me. Mary teaches us that the most powerful thing that any of us can do when we have this feeling is to go anyway. Yeah. So Mary doesn't feel qualified, but she goes anyway. She goes not knowing how she's supposed to take this baby and turn it into a king. When the angel of the Lord appears to Mary, he tells Mary everything that child is going to be. But she doesn't receive the promise in the form that God said that it was going to end up in. God, help me to say it. There are moments when we receive something from God that doesn't look like where it's going to end. Oh, I feel like that's a word for somebody. That you're looking at the baby, wondering how the baby's going to become king. You're looking at the small thing, trying to figure out how is that ever going to become the big thing. God, you told me that I would be the one that would break the generational curse, but right now I look like every other generation that came before me. How am I going to take this small thing and turn it into a big thing? God, you told me that you would bless my business, but I can't even get the financing I need. God says, I didn't give it to you in the form that it's going to end up in. I gave it to you in the form that would grow you up into the person who could raise it into everything that it could be. I feel like somebody's got to get that down in your spirit. Do not despise the days of small beginnings, that it started off small so that you could grow with it. Because when you grow with it, it grows you up. When you grow with it, it grows you up. And so Mary teaches us the power of going anyway. She questions her ability initially, but ultimately she chooses to trust God's plan for her life. Mary chose to just go anyway. Sometimes you have to just go anyway. God gives you what you need as you go. And sometimes we want all of the answers, and God, I want to know how you're going to do it. I'm not saying I won't go. I'm just saying, can you tell me exactly how it's going to happen? And God says, I'll tell you how it's going to happen when you start moving. Because God is looking for someone who he can order steps along the way. I feel like there's someone in this room that if God gave you all of the steps right now, that you would feel more in control than you actually are. When you go anyway, it is a sign to God that I don't have to have all of the answers. I just want to be where you tell me I am supposed to be. God, I don't know how you're going to do it in my marriage. I don't know how you're going to do it in my family, but I am going to go anyway. And when I go, you meet me where you told me you were going to meet me. When you go, God meets you. He's calling you to where he is. That's why we have to go, because God calls you to where he is. And when we move in that direction, it is a sign to him that we can be trusted. Because there are moments when God orders our steps, but we got to take them first. I got to forgive. I got to go anyway. I want to stay stuck in this bitterness. I want to stay stuck in this pain, but I can't stay here, so I got to go anyway. And Mary starts going anyway. And so some of you are wondering, okay, I'll go anyway. I'll do what God told me to do. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't have all of the resources that I need in order to do it, but I want to go anyway. And so Mary teaches us a valuable lesson. And if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down, because what Mary teaches us in those moments where we have to go anyway is that the power in going starts with you using what you know. Mary begins to just follow the customs of the Jewish people at that time. God gave her something that is going to ultimately deliver Israel, but right now she doesn't know how it's going to become a deliverer. And so because she doesn't know how she's going to get from A to Z, she just starts working what she knows. She knows that when I have a baby, that I need to wait until my time of purification is over. And after that, I need to go into Jerusalem and I need to present the baby. She works what she knows while she goes. The most powerful thing that any of us can do is activate what we know. Because when we activate what we know, it gives God permission to show us more and to teach us more. Imagine had Eve been in the garden and she simply activated what she knew. There are things that we know about our lives that we haven't activated yet because we don't know what's waiting on the other side. But when you use what you know, it starts to lead you into the direction that God says he's calling you towards. That means the relationship has to end. That means that we have to have the forgiveness down in our heart, even though we don't believe that the person is truly sorry. Our forgiveness is not predicated on whether or not that person is actually sorry. My forgiveness is predicated on the fact that I'm going anyway, that I'm not going to stay stuck where that pain met me. I'm not going to stay stuck where that disappointment met me. I'm going anyway. So Mary begins to go anyway, and she's using what she knows. Because learning how to go anyway and using what you know, I think, is one of the most powerful things that any of us can do. So after she's come out of the presence, Mary begins the task of living out what God said to do. And so in the process of doing this, she is presenting this child, Jesus, to Simeon. And I have to be honest, when I read this text, I felt like it was out of order. Because Simeon says in verse 29, he identifies with Mary and confirms with Mary what God already said about what she was carrying. He says, Lord, now you are letting your servant depart in peace according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared before the face of all peoples, a light to bring revelation to the Gentiles. Mary already knew all of those things, that is what she was carrying, and that's who the child would become. So in many ways, this is confirmation for her. But then Simeon says something that seems like it is contradicting what he just said. Because he says, behold, this child is destined for the fall and rising of many in Israel, and for a sign which will be spoken against. Yes, a sword will pierce through your own soul. When the angel of the Lord came, he didn't say nothing about no swords. That's the Ebonics version slipping out again. God, when you gave me the promise, when you told me what I was carrying, when you told me who I would become, when you told me I was fearfully and wonderfully made, when you told me that all things were going to work together for my good, you didn't tell me about the swords that were going to be a part of the journey. This feels like a contradiction from what you said. I don't know if anyone else in this room has ever been in a position where God made you a promise, but then a sword came and the sword didn't look like the promise, and the trauma didn't look like the promise, and the bankruptcy didn't look like the promise. God, how am I supposed to lay hold of the promise with a sword piercing through my soul? I felt like Simeon should have given the bad news first and then the good news. I felt like he should have said, all of these things are going to happen, but he's going to be resurrected and everything's going to be okay in the end. But for some reason, it doesn't work like that. He gives the revelation and the promise first, and then he gives the process afterwards. Because it is not on Simeon to remind you what the promise is. It is on us to remember what the promise is in the middle of the process. When I was studying, all I could hear was God said, I put the but first. I put that thing that you thought should be the but at the end of the bad news. I said it first. And then I started looking back over my own life and all of the moments where I felt like a sword was piercing through my own soul, where I was waiting for God to say, but this is going to work out in the end, and but you're going to be healed, and but all things are going to work together for your good. But God says, I'm not going to repeat what I already told you. I put the but first. And I just came to Fort Lauderdale, Florida to let somebody know that I know it took a lot for you to get into this room. And I know you're wondering how God is going to work it out. But I hear God saying, I put the but first. That when I wrote in the scriptures that all things were going to work together for your good, I wasn't just talking about the people in the text. I was talking about the people who would hear my voice and follow what I said to do. That means that at the end of the day, the bet is still on. At the end of the day, the promise is still yes and amen. That means that no weapon formed against you will prosper. I put that in there first. I know you're looking at the weapon, but I'm telling you it won't prosper. I know you're looking at the depression, but I'm I'm telling you, the joy of the Lord is your strength. I know you're looking at the struggle, but I'm telling you that when it's all said and done, though he slays you, you can trust in him. I put the but first. That means that you got to start telling your situation, I know what it looks like, but I know what God said first. And I'm hanging on to what God said first in the middle of what's taking place. I don't let the middle shake me. I remember what God said first. God said I was fearfully and wonderfully made. God said that I was going to make it to the other side. God said that his spirit would overtake me and it would show up right on time. I put the but. I put it first. I put it first. So don't let this idea of the promise going through a hostile environment convince you that the promise doesn't exist anymore. Because that hostility, remember, is a two-way street. And when we go silent, when we feel that hostility, it is one of the most dangerous things that we can do. Because then that hostility becomes a one-way street. And we start feeding off of the images of our past and the statistics about women like us and girls like us. Because that hostility is a one-way street. But all I wanted to do when I came here was to open up that other side of the street again. And to give you permission to really be propelled for sure. To give you permission to really be activated again. To give you permission to get back in position and recognize that God is still working in the midst of everything that is happening, that our God is still in control and that he is looking for a few good women. I know they did a movie about a few good men, but I'm telling you, according to Genesis 3:15, that he is just looking for a few good women who wouldn't mind letting hell know you picked the wrong woman, you picked the wrong family, you picked the wrong marriage, you picked the wrong child. This hostility is a one-way street. I'm so sick and tired of the devil telling me who I can be and what I can do. You don't have no power here. When my Savior got on the cross, this hostility became a one-way street. It's a two-way street, baby. It's a two-way street. And I want to prophesy that when you leave this place, that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard what God is going to do down on the inside of you. Not so that you can look good, but so that he can look good. I'm looking for women who don't mind making their life my stage. I'm looking for some women who don't mind making their marriage my stage. I want to be your stage. I want to be a stage for the glory to fall. I want to be a stage for the spirit to fall. Everyone else can be scared when they read the news. That just makes me go harder, because I recognize that everything the enemy is trying to use for evil, that my God is going to turn it around for good. How do I know it for sure? Because he picked a few good women from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to go to war with him as only they can do. And that's why it had to be you. Because he needed a woman who would get so angry and get so tired at having their back up against the wall that when everyone else would lay down and lie, she would wake up one morning and say, you know what, devil? I've had enough of you playing with my mind. I've had enough of you playing with my finances. I've had enough of you playing with my marriage. I wish I had some women in this room who didn't mind saying, I don't mind going to war with the devil. I'm not afraid of darkness because I carry the light. I'm not afraid of dying of flavor because I am the salt of the earth. I need some women. Just one or two of you, really. Because one of us could chase 1,000. Two of us could chase 10,000. I wonder if 100 of us got together in this room and decided that the days of women being oppressed and silent are over. That I've got something to prophesy over these dry bones. And I won't close my mouth until everything that God has put in me comes out of me like fire. Shut up in my bones. They gonna make me preach in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I promised I wasn't gonna preach, but now I'm starting to feel like it's some devils in this room. And I came to run some devils out of Florida. I came to run depression out of Florida. I came to make a woman get back in position and to take her rightful place as a woman who has victory over the enemy. I got victory over that. I've got victory over addiction. I've got victory over cancer. I've got victory over everything that's been happening in my family. I've got victory over suicidal thoughts. I got victory over that. I know it doesn't look like victory. I'm telling you where it's going to end. You're looking at the middle, but I'm listening to what God said first. God said I was going to come out of this. God said that this thing wasn't going to take me out. I'm prophesying. Because I don't care what the middle says. I care what God said first.
I got to say, no matter what you hear me say, no matter what piece of information I lay out in front, please take the with cause of God. I have accomplished so much, but it's cause of thought my life is covered with grace and for our favor. You know, Bishop Jacks told me one time, when you get faith on your life, no matter what you throw into you, gonna always reach to the top. All of the I have, I really because of the grace of. Now tell you something. If you could get a couple of things from me, if you could get this speech of information, I want you to get this now. Emergence is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attentions. Your real life, the on God really good for you is in your imagination. It is not in your correct situation. Our correct fits is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. All that mean is in the beginning.